one thing I've seen a lot of discussion of, both on X and in real life, is the rate at which Islam is growing. And a lot of Muslims online will kind of talk about this as almost like proof for the truth of Islam. What do you guys think about the numbers? Are the numbers accurate? Are they inaccurate? Like, what is really going on here?
I have to trust that the numbers are at least close to accurate, right? I was in Turkey one time, and I was having a conversation with a guy who owned a shop, and he had a fabric shop, and he was a devout Muslim. His wife was hijab. She wore hijab, and at the time in Turkey, that was like not necessarily like as popular as it is now. And he was talking about how his mosque raised money to go to Africa and dig a well, right? And then they also raised money. The Turkish state would like also help pay for this, but they went to Africa, they dug a well, and then they planted a mosque there, and they left an imam, right? And the same thing happens in churches. I think the thing that would make, just on a practical level, outside of like deciphering whether or not something is true, because when you go to Africa, people are like, they're hungry for like resources. It really is. If you come with resources, they will listen to anything you say, right? And it's not fair because they are looking for truth too, but they're also in great need, right? It's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like they need food, they need shelter, they need clothing, they need resources. But Christians in Africa, for instance, are persecuted. Who sits there and goes, I want to be part of the persecuted minority, right? Like, I want to be part of the group that everyone looks at mistrustfully. So I know, I understand that, right? But I've also heard it. And then on top of that, the thing that happens in places like Africa is it just becomes another part of a whole bunch of religions they have in their pockets. So it's really difficult, for instance, from a Christian standpoint, to go into Africa and you start discipling people. And it's like, well, it's a combination, right? It's a mixture of a whole bunch of different religions, but it's being called one thing. So I don't know if that's what's happening. But I know that the place where it's growing the fastest is in Africa. So I'm wondering what the efficacy of those numbers are, because, are they all actually like, devout Muslims who are following? I would highly doubt that. But I do think that they believe that they're Muslims. So then you have that, right?
Yeah, I think one major element when we talk about Africa is Christianity is side by side with Islam when it comes to conversions or converting rate. And why I say that, it goes back to your point where it is the game of resources, right? The desperateness in society is one of the major elements. It doesn't matter whether it's Christian or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism or whatever ism is there. If you bring food to my table, if you give me resources, money, I'm more than willing to do whatever you want me to do, right? That's one catch. Yes, the other point, if the religion there is Islam in majority, right, then Christians are persecuted there.
Sure.
Right? But again, this is the society mindset. Christians, on the other hand, where there are majority Christians, they are not also welcoming to Muslims. It's very, it's not to say that they are as bad as their counterparts, but there is a sense of hate in there towards each other. So that is the situation of Africa. But the more alarming sense, or the more concerning, is the rise of Islam in West.
So I think if you actually look at the rise of Islam in America specifically, a lot of it's hype, in that you have some what you're using is sort of TikTok videos of like, look at this famous priest Hilarion Higgy or Sneeko Andrew Tate, or like some like specific media personalities. Those people, absolutely exist. But if you actually look at the data, the Muslim population in America is stable. As many people join Islam each year as leave Islam each year, which means the Muslim population stays about the same in America. It isn't some massive movement which is taking in thousands by the day. It's like about 20,000 people convert to Islam in America each year. About 20,000 people in America leave Islam each year. It's a stable population. Now, you might find yourself in a place where you have lots of people converting to Islam in one place, and it feels like that. And the same can be said with Christianity as well. You might be in a place where you just see tons of people becoming Christians. That doesn't necessarily mean it's happening everywhere. You might just live in a kind of specific bubble of that.
I want to follow up with that question that asked. In Europe, particularly, Islam is one of the growing religion, and it's not about birth rate, it's about conversion rates. And I was trying to figure out what's the reason of that. And the reason is the shallowness of society, the absence of structure in society, the idea of liberalism, where you are truly and only responsible for yourself and you are left alone in this world to deal with your problems, even if you're Christian. Well, I'm saying if you're Christian like you're culturally Christian, not in a Christian circle, right? That gives a sense of loneliness. That gives a sense of, I am on my own. I do not have nobody. And Islam comes with a complete package. Of course, you're just going on the surface. You do not know what's lurking underneath, right? You're just going with the surface. And on the surface, I can tell you, Islam looks so beautiful, so perfect. Right, and that is one of the reason, and that is one of the reason in here as well. That is one of the reason in Europe as well.
I mean, if we're talking about sheer numbers, I do believe that birth rate plays a role. I mean, particularly when you hear people talking about it. Sometimes you'll be like flipping through YouTube reels and somebody will be like a Christian arguing with a Muslim on the street, and the Muslim will say, in 10 years we'll be the majority, and sure, conversion rate, I think it definitely plays a role. I think that it's a lot easier to have a kid every 2 years. Like, I can speak from experience, right? Like, I have 6 kids, we had twins twice.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, we're starting to make Mongolia great again. The point is, I think birth rate affects the numbers. If more so or as much as conversion rates. I mean, it has to, because in my mind, it's like, do you see people gathering in soccer stadiums and like converting to Islam in London or Brussels or Stockholm or wherever? I don't see that. I've never seen that. I've never seen these big gatherings where it's like, Christianity, they'll be like, we're selling, we're having a rally in an open thing, and the speaker will speak and 10,000 people will come forward or something. I'm not saying they all become Christians. I'm saying they come forward, right? But I've never seen that in an Islamic area. So maybe Islam's ground game is better.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think they think there's a good ground game, especially in Europe. And I think, Shadil, you're right, that Europe has kind of deleted its soul. It's secular and impersonal, and Islam and the Muslim community generally does a good job at a lot of the things Europe does a bad job out of, and it's using that to fill a spiritual void.